Sorry, this is Falso Science. I'm from Comet, and I work in the Sphere project, among other projects. So I'm going to have a very brief presentation because we don't have much time. Don't worry, you can approach me the coffee break or lunchtime, and you ask me, you find my chat interesting, all my ideas, or the ideas we've been thinking about in Comet. Most of the ideas about trust came from experiences in actually in Sphere 2, but also in other projects. And I'm going to give you briefly the conclusions we get on this process. So basically, there are previous facts or previous preparations we had to do to get in trust, because trust, and don't forget that the name of the workshop is Trustworthiness, is a very important aspect, and we are come to this conclusion after many years of working, for people to adopt, not just to accept, but to adopt technology. And in the case we're talking about human thermal models and other technology that we have been developed with BIM and with digital twins, this is important, especially, and I'm talking from the point of view of the residents. I'm not residents or building users, that's the case today, for example. So for as humans, for us to adopt and to accept first and to adopt some technology, we need to trust it, point number one, unless you are forced to do so, like I'm using this computer. But given the choice, you need to show trust. You have to trust. So we need to promote trust. Also, this is the, no, that's not the one. So first of all, we have to analyze which are the needs of these users. He was talking about profiling, and this is a very interesting point, and that has to be further developed. And then we need to engage those prospective users or the target people that are going to use the system or the building. And one way to get people to trust is through good usability of all the technologies we have. The GDPR has been mentioned before, and this is a very important point too, because one of the projects, as it was mentioned right now by Andres, we have to make the form of the GDPR so they can sign. So all the data from the inhabitants in the building was going back to the company that deal with the energy simulation and energy management, and it went back. Someone was talking about, is it bi-directional or only one direction? Is bi-directional in the case, but you have to sign the privacy agreements. That's also important. Anyway, all these time. Yeah. All these actions are, as I mentioned before, through trust, we get acceptance, and the most important thing, we get adoption of the technology or the building or the product object we want them to get interested in. So all these actions are aimed to promote trust and acceptance in these new technologies. And as I mentioned, once you get acceptance, you could get adoption. But if you don't get acceptance of technology, you will not. What happened with the Safeway 20 years ago? Oh, it's technically it's perfect. How many people bought? Is a revolution in the world? Yes, oh boy, it's not, is it? I can only see it in my own town with tourists going through it. How many of you own a Safeway? Nobody. Nobody. So there are previous actions and analysis you have to do if you want people to adopt technology. This is the way it is. So the other option is that the other objective is to encourage the adoption by professionals. Because, for example, digital twins and all new emerging new technologies needs to be explained sometimes not just in a simple manner, but in a manner that it gets it looks nice. It has to be explained simple, but also attractive, so to say. Okay. The human factors we cannot escape. We're humans, so anything that is related to a human, whether it is technology, food, or the weather, has to go through the human layer, and we cannot forget that. This is the way it is. So this is what I mean, at the end of the day, the human factors are really relevant. We develop at Comet, with the help of other people, this kind of important idea about trust. So we need to, this is one of the ways to promote trust. There are other ways, but this is the one we can do from our engineering, usability engineering expertise we have at Comet. So if you present, and this is also bidirectional, if you present technology that is easy to use, this also promotes trust. Because if I get something which is overcomplicated and I cannot use it, I get frustrated and I will not trust the machine, the system, or whatever it is. However, if you manage to make technology that is intuitive and easy to use, using principles from human-computer interaction, usability expertise, etc., then the trust on the device will have a high curve of the learning, for example. So this is very important. And I think I'm on time. Yeah. Okay. So basically, if you want to know more, just ask me if I am available. That I will be, of course, I will be available. Thanks for learning, and well, think about it.
Okay. Try to wrap up. Eduard, thank you for inviting me to, I'll say, present some thoughts of what we are doing in Porto University, more particularly at Instituto da Construção in Portugal. I would like to start with our vision, not entirely ours, but with our partners. We set up this vision for incremental digital twin, focus on the data. So what we are seeing here is several levels of twin that are built on two main concepts. That is data templates. Nowadays, you might start hearing about digital product passports in accordance with the construction product regulation. That's what DDT aims to express. Before we have the 3D model that might exist or not, just answering to what Andre was saying, I think that it is possible to have digital twins without 3D, but we need to have the linked data with the ontologies, with the data that comes from construction products, etc. And then we have digital building logbook, a key player to enable, in our perspective, digital twins, because they will enable they will also support sensor sites. We are going there, and also smart buildings. So this is our vision. It is published. You can access to it. I can share the slides afterwards. I'll put some fancy things because I did not have enough time to prepare it. But I would like to focus first on digital building logbook, a thing that will be in research for the next months, years. Let's see. We set up a process-based framework for the digital building logbook. It is, I would say, a first vision that runs the entire construction process from, need to point it here, from design to, from preliminary phases of the design and construction, and this is quite dense, but I just place here because this is the use phase, okay? And the use phase is meaningful for the digital twin and for the privacy that is the topic that we are talking here. So this is also published. What we have here on the use phase and in this process-based framework is the different kinds of data that the DBL should support in our perspective. So we have what we can state as static data, quasi-static data, and dynamic data. Dynamic data would be the one that is more associated with digital twins. But, and as also Andre was saying, we need business cases, we need practical situations. We are implementing this in a municipality. So residential housing in a municipality that rents or has tenants. So the most important thing here is that in these boxes here, we need to pay attention to what is the data that comes from the tenants and it's not just their name, it's also their finance, because the municipality calculates the rents depending on the finance, on the salaries of the people. So this is sensitive data. This is, I would say, data that should not be, I would say, it must be part of the digital building logbook of the book of the building, but it needs to be a part, because no one, but in the municipality, there are people, specific people that have restrict access to this information. But on the other hand, there are other people that deal with project management, construction, and etc., that need to update the data, saying that, well, this is a apartment with 3 rooms, so it can host a family with 4 people or 5 people. So how do we interact between this? This is very challenging, and this is one of the things that we are still trying to figure out together with this municipality in order to work. So this is one of the privacy issues that I would like to point in the digital building logbooks, because they are also related with the digital twin that we aim to implement at building scale. And we are talking about, when we are looking to this, we are talking about building scale. So it's that is our focus at this point. And then we go to censored sites, what I rushed to present or start talking in the beginning of this session. So what we are doing and what we already did is that for us, it is important to have construction. If we want construction to be 4.0, workers need to be also 4.0. But what we have at this moment is 0.0. Because we go on site and we have people looking to others working, just taking notes on paper in order to get the productivity. But we can use sensors, images, wearables, portables, etc., software and hardware to do this kind of monitoring. But to get a project funded without constraints, saying that it is not GDPR compliant, we had to prove that this was feasible and that it was possible to do in accordance with the GDPR. So we set up a framework with all the steps that we think are relevant, and also trying to envision how this would link to things like digital twins, smart contracts, and etc. And again, when we have the identification and the planning, we can implement, set the transition and storage of the data, and then the data processing. We come here and we have 2 different paths: profile or general or not profile. And this is key, because depending on the way we want to follow, this applies. And this is all the GDPR recommendations and documents and agreements that need to be validated and need to be worked between the company and the worker. As sorry, not Pablo, our colleague from Incremental was saying, not here, there. We need to make it easy, and this is not easy. This is for us to discuss, because if I try to approach any contractor saying, well, if you want to do electronic monitoring, you need to comply with this, said no. End of story. So the mission was first to prove that this was possible. It is. We just need to comply with everything that is there. And now we are moving forward in order to try to streamline it a little bit, have, I would say, a more fancy image to show to contractors, saying that, well, this is the framework and these are the documents that you need to agree with your workers in order to enable electronic monitoring. And there is the privacy issues and etc. So this is the challenge that is now ongoing. We have already some testimonies from, not from the construction industry, a side of it, where they did it with general profiles, so they don't know the names, but they know that 5 workers are there from that company. But for us, and the thing that we are working, is on the profile side, more difficult. But why? Because we think that it is not just an added value for the company, it is also an added value for the worker. On the context of shortage of human resources in construction, it might be interesting in some specialized workers say, well, my productivity is this. So you have granted that if I go on site, I will do it better than others. And actually, as we went on site, we are doing this quite practical. We got very interesting feedback from construction workers to whom this framework is also, let's say, astrophysics. So they don't want to know about this, but they want to know what they need to agree with the company and what are the trades, the fair trade that they can get. So we have been talking with them, and it is interesting because we start saying, how about being monitored by electronics? And say, no. I said, okay, so do you use Facebook? Do you know the amount of information that you're sharing? And then it changes figures. On the other hand, we have some specialized workers that said, electronic monitoring, yes, sure, I use this every day. And we were like, wow. So on one hand, this is difficult to implement from a bottom-up or a top-down approach, but it is being implemented in the middle a lot because the workers talk with each other and they are, let's say, taking advantage of the tools that they already have to do monitoring, ad hoc monitoring. And that was very insightful. So this is part of the things that we are doing. And I think that we have here two dimensions that hit privacy a lot. Construction workers is one of the examples, and the other is the tenants on a municipality where several digitalization actions are being implemented. Thank you.
This is like a metric tool for home monitoring. We could have more metrics too for different scenarios. That is important. Okay, here you see here below some examples, and there is one example detecting human presence in real time for home to owner. Okay, important. Okay, let's go. This is the calculation, and this is the algorithm here. So it is taken, if you see, we are taking this score here because it's a human. We are detecting presence. We are one. We are sample data directly. Sampling frequency less than 1 minute. We are detecting presence. And now we are dividing by the data use. The storage is in-house, okay? And data control, individual control by the owner. So we have a total metric of 1. No problem. Yeah?
This is for residential.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it changes for...
Absolutely. Yeah. Home, yeah, this is for residential. Second example, we are detecting human presence in real time, but we are working in cloud. This. So the same. So we have human presence again, all the same, but here, instead of 1, we have 3 orders of magnitude less. So this is not compliant because, boom, you are triggering the non-privacy. That is the methodology. Okay. Imagine that you are in a project where you want to work with human presence. Okay, you can do that, but you cannot send the data to cloud. That is the message. It's a very basic message. Okay. Another example, a remote desk, somebody, or this one basically, which is more important, somebody outside your home and is supervising the performance of the home. Okay, so in this case, you have, here, you have home monitoring, you see there, a specific consumption, magnitude, a statistic, you have time history, you're evaluating the time history, a sampling frequency 10 minutes. Data use, okay, you are sharing remote maintenance. Well, it's not like a storage in-house. It's privacy content is less, okay? And you are using a remote desk, which can be in a special data control, because the remote desk can be the owner in front of the window and other guy just watching at the window. It doesn't mean that the other guy has data. It's watching the screen, okay? So the valuation in this case is yellow. That means that there is like an interval where the situation must be controlled somehow, must be defined, there must be a protocol, something like that. Okay. This tool, which is a draft, this is not a standard, remember, apply to a real case in Holland, okay? How can I go there? Because it's here. It's another Excel expression. Simple. Okay. This could be one of the demo pilots in a Sphere project, okay? And the idea on this pilot was to monitor everything possible, okay? There wasn't a BMS, so they were using like portals, a couple of portals. Portal means that the sensor are sending the signals to one place, okay? They have a specific portal for the home ventilation machine, so the fabricator of the home ventilation machine will receiving the data of the machine, and they have some data loggers. Okay. In all these cases, you have here the description, for example. This portal name, Clement Garant, or whatever name is like energy use and energy consumption. You see that you are using magnitudes here, production, kilowatts per hour, meter. So in this case, you are estimating, this is the reproduction of the values of the other tool, okay? You are estimating home consumption. This is the magnitude. This is the statistic, the mean value, the sampling frequency a day, and you send this to the cloud, okay? Oh, sorry. I will be here. Are you sending this to the cloud? So your estimation of the privacy content is 1,000. If your interval for compliance is 1 to 5, you are outside compliance. Basically, because you are sending this to the cloud. So remember that this is like a simulation in case this was in real time. This was not in real time, right? So imagine that I have to redesign my process. I want to do that, but I want to become compliant. What can I change? So if I go to local storage, just simply changing these numbers here, I can become compliant. So this is a tool useful for design. That is the message. We are not speaking about what to do with the data, because data, at one point, they can be sold. People can be selling the data. They are free to do that. It is their data. And in other cases, you can be sending the data to the municipality to demonstrate that your home your performance is okay. I don't know. So, but the point is, who is controlling the data? That is the owner. Okay? Yeah.